My name is Steve, and I learned that being the new guy in a corporate office means you're the first suspect when anything goes wrong. It doesn't matter if you're innocent. It doesn't matter if you're doing everything right. When someone needs a scapegoat, the person without history, without allies, without power, that's who they choose. Let me tell you what happened to me. I was 26, fresh out of college with my accounting degree, sitting in my cubicle at Henderson Global Solutions. The office smelled like burnt coffee and printer toner. My desk was still bare, no photos, no plants. I'd only been there 2 months. That Tuesday morning, my manager Michael Brennan appeared beside my desk. Mid-40s, graying at the temples, navy suit. Steve, can I see you in my office? My stomach dropped. In corporate America, those words never mean anything good. I followed him past rows of cubicles. People looked up, then quickly looked away. Maya, the woman who sat 3 desks over, gave me a sympathetic glance. Inside his office, Michael closed the door. He didn't sit. Neither did I. We need to talk about the break room situation, he said. I blinked. The break room. Food has been disappearing from the communal refrigerator. Multiple employees have complained. He crossed his arms. Several people mentioned seeing you in the kitchen area during unusual hours. My mouth went dry. I work here. Of course, I'm in the kitchen. I eat lunch like everyone else. At 6:30 in the morning, at 8 p.m., I get here early. I stay late. I stopped myself. Trying to prove myself. Trying to show I belonged. I'm just doing my job. Michael's expression didn't change. We're going to be watching more carefully. That's all. He opened the door. The conversation was over. I walked back to my desk feeling everyone's eyes on me. My hands were shaking when I sat down. I stared at my computer screen, not really seeing it. 20 minutes later, Maya appeared with a coffee. She set it on my desk without a word, then leaned in close. This happened to the last new person too, she whispered. Just be careful. That night, I couldn't sleep. I kept replaying Michael's tone, his body language, the way he'd already decided I was guilty. I got up at 3 a.m. and started a document on my laptop every interaction I'd had at work. Every time I'd been in the kitchen, everything I could remember. I didn't know it yet, but that document would save my career. Maybe my life. To understand what happened, I need to go back about 6 months. I grew up in Cleveland, in a neighborhood where most people worked with their hands. My father was a mechanic. My mother cleaned houses. When I told them I was going to college for accounting, they were proud but confused. Office work, my dad said, shaking his head like he couldn't quite picture it. I was the first person in my family to graduate college. Getting hired at Henderson Global Solutions felt like winning the lottery. It was a huge multinational corporation, real corporate America. The starting salary was more than both my parents made combined. Michael Brennan was my direct supervisor, running the accounts payable department. During my interview, he'd seemed professional, formal, but that felt normal. I arrived at 7 a.m. every day, left at 6 p.m., took notes on everything, never missed a deadline. I was determined to prove I deserved to be there. The break room problems started in my 3rd week. At first, it was small things. Someone's sandwich would go missing. Leftover pasta disappeared. People started writing their names on everything in Sharpie. Then it escalated to expensive meals, groceries people brought for the week, specialty items. A woman named Cheryl bought a mini cooler bag with a lock for her lunch. The tension was thick. People stopped making small talk in the kitchen. Everyone watched everyone else. Michael held a department meeting about it. This is about respect, he said, standing at the front of the conference room. About basic workplace courtesy. His eyes lingered on me, on Marcus, another black employee, on 2 women who'd been hired recently. I felt it then. This wasn't really about missing food, it was about something else. Maya confirmed it later. She'd been at Henderson for 10 years, survived 3 rounds of layoffs. He does this, she told me quietly over coffee. Finds someone to blame. Usually someone new. Usually someone who. She trailed off, but I knew what she meant. Someone who looked like me. I started being hyper-aware of every time I went to the break room. I'd check over my shoulder. I'd make sure other people saw me. I never took anything that wasn't mean. I barely ate my own lunch, my appetite killed by anxiety. But it didn't matter. Michael had already decided. The accusation in his office was just him laying groundwork, making sure everyone knew he was investigating, establishing a narrative. I should have seen what was coming. But I was 26 and naive. I thought if I just kept my head down, worked hard, everything would be fine. I was wrong. 3 weeks after the kitchen confrontation, everything exploded. I got called to a conference room. Not Michael's office, this time a real conference room with a long table and uncomfortable chairs. Michael was there. So was Sandra from HR, a woman in her 50s with reading glasses on a chain, and a woman I'd never seen before. "Steve, this is Patricia Reynolds," Sandra said. "She's an external auditor investigating some financial discrepancies." My heart stopped. Financial discrepancies. Patricia was maybe 40, with graying hair pulled back tight, wearing a gray suit. She had a laptop open and several folders spread on the table. She looked at me with neutral, assessing eyes. "In the past 6 weeks, there have been several unusual transactions processed through accounts you've had access to," she said. Her voice was flat, professional. "Wire transfers to external accounts, amounts ranging from $800 to $12,000. The room spun. I process data. I enter what I'm told to enter. I don't authorize anything." Michael cleared his throat. "Steve is still learning our systems. It's possible he made mistakes, or," he paused meaningfully, "possibly something more concerning. I didn't steal anything." My voice came out too loud. I forced myself to breathe. "Every transaction I processed was approved by Michael Cobb. I have the emails." Patricia's expression didn't change, but she wrote something down. "We'll need to see those emails, of course." "I can pull them right now." "We'll need to suspend you during this investigation," Sandra interrupted. "Paid leave. Standard procedure. Suspend me." I looked between them. "I didn't do anything wrong. It's temporary," Sandra said. But her tone said, "We've already decided." Michael was watching me with something that might have been satisfaction, very subtle, but it was there. They escorted me back to my desk to collect my belongings. A security guard stood nearby, a massive dude named Dennis, who'd always been friendly before. Now he wouldn't meet my eyes. Everyone was staring. Whispers followed me. I grabbed my jacket, my water bottle, some personal items from my drawers. My hands were numb. Maya appeared beside me. "Steve, not now," I managed. She pressed something into my hand, a sticky note with a phone number. "Call me," she whispered. Outside in the parking lot, I sat in my car, a 12-year-old Honda Civic that barely ran, and tried not to lose it completely. My phone buzzed. Text from my brother. "How's work?" I stared at it for 5 minutes before replying. "I'll call you later." That night, I didn't sleep at all. I sat at my kitchen table in my tiny apartment, my laptop open, going through every email, every document I'd saved. I printed everything, filled an entire folder with printed emails showing Michael's approvals for every transaction Patricia had mentioned. The pattern was obvious once I looked for it. Michael always approved transactions verbally or in person, never through the official system, always through email, saying things like "process this payment" or "handle this transfer." Always to me, to Marcus, to the other junior employees. Never to the senior people who'd been there for years. I saved everything to a flash drive. Backed it up to the cloud. Some part of me knew this was bigger than missing lunches. My brother called around midnight. "What's going on?" I told him everything. He swore. "You need a lawyer." "I can't afford a lawyer." "Then you need to document everything." Everything. "And Steve," his voice got serious, "watch your back." I couldn't go back to the office. I was suspended. But 3 days later, I couldn't stand sitting in my apartment anymore. I needed my backup notebook, the one I kept in my desk drawer, with handwritten notes about projects. I went at 2 a.m. The parking lot was empty except for a few cars, workaholics or night security. I badged in. The overnight security guard, an older black man named Curtis, looked surprised. "Little late, isn't it?" "Just grabbing something from my desk." They said it was okay. It wasn't, but Curtis didn't know that. He waved me through. The office was eerie at night. Emergency lighting cast strange shadows. My footsteps echoed. I made my way to my cubicle, found my notebook, shoved it in my bag. That's when I saw light coming from the break room. My breath caught. I should have left, should have walked straight out. But something made me move closer, staying in the shadows. The break room door was half open. I could see inside. Michael Brennan stood in front of the refrigerator. He had a reusable shopping bag in one hand. As I watched, he opened the fridge, pulled out a glass container someone's carefully labeled dinner and put it in his bag, then another, then a yogurt, a sandwich. He worked methodically, quickly, like he'd done this 100 times. My hand moved on instinct. I pulled out my phone, started recording video. Michael grabbed one more container, then closed the fridge and turned toward the door. I ducked behind a cubicle wall, heart hammering. Waited until I heard his footsteps fade, heard the elevator ding. I looked at my phone. The video was grainy, dark, but clear enough you could see his face. See the labels on the containers. See him stealing. I stood there for a long moment, the phone heavy in my hand. Then I walked out of the building, got in my car, and drove home. I didn't sleep that night either. I sat on my couch, watching that video, over and over. The man who'd accused me of stealing was the actual thief. The man who was letting me take the fall for fraud was himself a fraud. I wanted to send it to everyone immediately, wanted to blast it everywhere, but something made me wait, think. If I played this wrong, he'd find a way to twist it. Say I was retaliating. Discredit me further. I needed to be smart. The next morning, I called Maya, told her what I'd found. Send it to everyone, she said. All at once. Make it impossible to bury. That afternoon, I crafted an email. Subject: Mystery solved. Body: after being accused of stealing from the break room, I wanted to clear my name. Attached is video evidence showing who has actually been taking people's food. I sent it to the entire accounting department, 47 people, including HR, including Patricia Reynolds. I hit send. My phone started ringing within 5 minutes. The next morning, I got a call from Sandra in HR. We need you to come in for a meeting. I'm suspended. The suspension is temporarily lifted. We need to discuss the video you sent. I drove to the office. My hands were shaking on the steering wheel. The lobby was weirdly quiet when I walked in. People stared at me. Some looked angry, some looked sympathetic. Curtis, the security guard, gave me a subtle nod as I passed. I went to the conference room. Sandra was there. So was Patricia. So was a man I'd never met, late 60s, gray beard, expensive suit. He introduced himself as Robert Wagner, the regional director and major shareholder. Michael was not there. Mr. Wagner wanted to be here for this, Sandra said, her voice tight. Wagner looked at me with sharp, intelligent eyes. Mr. Mitchell, that was quite a video. Yes, sir. You went into the office at 2 in the morning while suspended. Here it comes, I thought. The excuse to fire me for real. I needed my notebook. I didn't think he held up a hand. I'm not concerned about that. I'm concerned about the fact that my accounting manager has apparently been stealing food from employees for months, and I'm very concerned about the fraud allegations against you. Patricia spoke up. After viewing Mr. Mitchell's video, I expanded my investigation into Mr. Brennan's activities. The pattern Steve identified in his emails led me to examine Mr. Brennan's approvals more carefully, and Wagner asked, though his tone suggested he already knew. Michael Brennan has been systematically stealing from this company for approximately 2 years. He's diverted funds totaling over $180,000 using junior employees' credentials to process transactions he personally approved. The room went silent. Steve, Patricia continued, you were being set up as a scapegoat. So was Marcus Henderson. So were 3 other junior employees who've worked here in the past 2 years. When transactions were questioned, Brennan could point to the employee who technically processed them. I couldn't breathe, but I have the approval emails, which is why you're not being charged with anything. Brennan was careful to leave a paper trail showing he gave orders, but it was structured to make you look complicit if anyone looked too quickly. She smiled thinly. That video changed everything. It showed a pattern of dishonest behavior. It made me look deeper. Wagner stood. Mr. Brennan has been terminated and will be prosecuted criminally. The company will cooperate fully with law enforcement. And Steve, I owe you an apology. I just stared at him. We should have investigated more thoroughly before suspending you. We should have questioned why a brand new employee would commit fraud in such an obvious way. We failed you. He paused. I'd like to offer you your position back. With a promotion to senior accountant, a salary increase of 20%, and compensation for the days you were suspended. I couldn't form words. Or, Wagner continued, if you'd prefer to work elsewhere after this experience, I'll personally write you a recommendation letter and provide a settlement package. Your choice. Maya found me later in the break room, the same break room where I'd filmed Michael, so she asked. I'm staying, but I have conditions. She grinned. Of course you do. I'd asked to work with internal audit and compliance, help them develop better controls so this couldn't happen to anyone else. Wagner agreed immediately. The next few weeks were intense. Michael was arrested. They found the money in offshore accounts. The story went national. The company implemented major policy changes. I was promoted again within 6 months. Made manager within a year. Now I run the compliance department, a position that didn't exist before. Michael Brennan was sentenced to 5 years in federal prison with full restitution. I don't feel good about that. I don't feel bad either. I just feel relieved the truth came out. Looking back, I see warning signs I missed. Michael's unusual approval processes, how he targeted vulnerable, new employees who didn't have support systems. I almost gave up that day. I got suspended, almost disappeared, started over somewhere else. But I'm glad I didn't. Here's what I learned. Document everything. Every approval, every conversation. It feels paranoid, but when someone tries to destroy your career, those documents are the only thing protecting you. Be strategic. My video was clear, undeniable, but I was also smart about distributing it. If I'd just sent it to HR, it might have been buried. The system isn't perfect. It's slow, bureaucratic. Sometimes it fails, but if you give it solid evidence, sometimes it works. Sometimes justice happens. My dad visited last month. Stood in my office. I have an actual office. No one got tears in his eyes. You did it, he said, but it almost didn't happen. If I hadn't gone back that night, if I hadn't saved every email, if I'd given up when they suspended me. One small choice. One decision to document instead of delete. So if someone's trying to scapegoat, you document everything. Save every email. Screenshot every conversation. Don't give up. The truth needs proof. Once you have proof, the truth has power. Michael Brennan thought he could use me and throw me away. Thought I was powerless. He was wrong. 3 years later, I'm still here, still working, still helping make sure this never happens again. Michael's in prison. I'm free. That's justice.
Thank you for staying with us until the very end. If you enjoyed the video, please subscribe to the channel, like it, and share it. See you soon.